Welcome back. Spring has finally sprung, the cherry blossom trees are finally blooming, and I was at a really cool tiki party last week, thrown by my friend Adam Demarath. He works over at Sunken Harbor Club, and I had interviewed him in Exotica Moderne. Man after my own heart. He had been to over 80 different tiki bars across the country. This issue is at least a year old now. I don't know if he could still get it. So he had this really ambitious agenda set up. It was his 43rd birthday, and he even made a cocktail program with 43 different cocktails. Now, I'm not 43 anymore, but even if I was, I don't know, even if I just took a sip of each one, I don't think I could make it through 43 different cocktails. That's a lot. But from what I heard, the party was going on till 5 a.m. The neighbors must have loved that. Loud, strange Exotica music till 5 in the morning, people coming and going in tiki attire. Even if I wanted to, I don't think I could have made it that long. I ran into a lot of people I hadn't seen for years, mostly due to the pandemic, and I was happy to run into Ray Sackover, and he tells me he's opening up a tropical and tiki bar this summer in Manhattan. Really looking forward to that. I also ran into my friend Martin Duderoff, and you may not recognize his name, but you'll recognize his apps, such as the Beach Bum Berries Total Tiki app and the PDT Speakeasy cocktail book. This one is available in print and on the app. It's updated regularly, and in fact, he told me about one cocktail called the Lioness, and I had just seen it pop up the week before. And this is a really interesting story. I had no idea that this place existed. It was basically a live zoo. I mean, they had flamingos, they had alligators, they had monkeys, they had birds and snakes, and the admission was free. It was the largest privately owned botanical garden and zoo. It ran from like the early 50s until like the mid 70s. So for like 25 years, this place, you could go in there, and amongst the jungle, you could be dining and having cocktails amongst all these beautiful exotic animals in a beautiful botanical garden. If you go online and look, I mean, some of these prices were like unbelievable. I mean, the food was cheap. A plate of ribs, scallops, lobster, all for less than $5 a dish. I know we're going back 50 years, but I don't know. Today, I can't imagine any of these things being less than $100 a dish. Unfortunately, this place became too hard to maintain. It cost way too much money, and they had a lot of problems. There was a drunken party one time of like 700 people, and they wound up, the police had to come, and then somebody stole a couple of the flamingos, which is just stupid. I understand you're drunk or whatever, but these birds can't live in a normal environment. I don't know what happened to these poor animals. Today's equivalent, I guess, would be the Rainforest Cafe. I was at this place a few years back, before the pandemic, in the Menlo Park Mall. And I gotta say, it was really fascinating. I mean, if it was a tiki bar, it'd be like the coolest bar out there. Every 15 minutes the rain would fall, and they had, they were plastic animals, of course, but they had the animal sounds, and it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. It had a waterfall. The drinks were pretty good. The food, not so great at all. Actually, it's quite awful. But the drinks were really good. The concept is great. Rainforest Cafe, if you're ever near one, they got a few in Texas, one in Jersey, a couple outside of the country, but check that place out. The only other place that I could think was close to this was the Garden Falls in New Jersey, filled with birds and ponds and orchids, and it was just the most tiki place on earth. Like, if you wanted to rent out this facility for a weekend, for a wedding, for any type of event, they had a theater, they had a dining room, they had a full facility. The place was just incredible. Japanese gardens, they even had a tiki bar. This place sadly went out of business. getting back to the Total Tiki app, they updated it with this drink from the Palms in the Jungle. And it's called the Lioness. And it's such a super simple drink. I'm going to make it for you right now. First things first, it's going to call for 3/4 of an ounce of lime juice. Measurements are very simple. 3/4, 3/4, 3/4, and 1.5 ounces. So I like to squeeze directly over my jigger, so I can fill it up directly to the line. 3/4 of an ounce of lime juice. 3/4 of an ounce of peach liqueur. Finally, 3/4 of an ounce of cognac. Now, this doesn't look like a brand name cognac, and it isn't, but people notice I have these in these flat glass flasks, and the reason for that is whenever a bottle gets down to less than a third, I transfer it into these bottles. They're flatter, they're easier to store, giving me more room under the bar, and it also limits the amount of air in there to oxidize. What's going to happen is the air gets to these liquors and it changes the flavor and it keeps it fresher longer. If you're going to have a bottle like vodka or light rum, I wouldn't worry about it too much, but anything that's aged or flavored, try and keep the air out of it as best you can. Now we simply just shake. You know the deal. Once you can't hold it anymore, it's a sign that it's cold enough. And strain into a chilled cocktail. Cheers. Don't really taste a lot of the brandy. Definitely taste the lime and the peach. This is a bit on the sweet side for me, but it's a drink that will go down very easily, so don't drink too fast. I'm going to give you the recipe right here, but I do encourage you to buy the app. I think it's only like $10, and I've used it every single week, maybe 2-3 times a week, every week for like the last 5 years or however long it's been out. I'm not like an app nut. I rarely pay for anything. I just use the free ones only because I don't know if I'm going to like it. But this one I love. I'm glad I spent the money on it. It's paid for itself many, many, many times over. Till next time, cheers. Mahalo.
Isn't happy hour anytime?